Hello, my Aloha tribe, and welcome to the Aloha Perspective, where you get a little bit of something and a whole lot of everything. Happy Thursday. Every day, every time, every damn time. Happy Thursday. Anyways, good morning. How is everyone? Hope everyone's doing well. So today I have a little bit of history of Orange County, California, because I know there's a couple of them. And I have a few ghosty stories to go with that history, which is actually quite interesting because some of the stuff I had no idea. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. There we go. Please stay. I know, I totally forgot to look up the thing. Older sibling got me this really cool thing for my birthday, and heaven knows I still haven't put it together. God, I'm a mess today. I don't even have my watch on. But this thing, it's fancy. And this right here, it turns into a tripod. So that's right. That is right. Anyways, so yeah, Supernatural Orange County. Let's see, and a little bit of history. And like I said, you know, this is kind of interesting for me because I actually live in the OC, which sometimes I tell you. Anyway, but yeah, oh yeah, Muddy's card that I still have to mail because, you know, slacker. But good morning, Muddy. So I did wake up older sibling, but I don't know where she is, so she may have fallen back asleep. Anyways, like I said, Supernatural Orange County. Sorry, like I said, I'm a mess, kids. I'm a mess, kids, today. I'm literally fighting off something, not a cold, but like I said yesterday, I think a mental cold. So, yeah, I'm fighting off some kind of funk. But, you know, in the climate we live in right now, like I said yesterday, it's a little hard to get away from that. So anyways, yeah, so let's just get rolling on this. There's a couple of pages, but only because they go into quite a lot of detail. So, well, sort of. So in Garden Grove, which is, if you know where Disneyland it's just south of Disneyland. There's like Anaheim and then Garden Grove. So it's like Brea, Anaheim, Garden Grove, and a little bit of Fullerton in there. So in Garden Grove, though, I had no idea. Oh, I know. I'm sorry, Muddy. We'll figure out how to get through this, yeah? But I'm here if you need me. So just, you know. But let's see. I'm afraid to put this here because I'm afraid that if I do, it's going to make the camera go sideways. But let me see. So I wrote everything down because I didn't want to mess it up. But there is a place in Garden Grove called the Stanley House, and it sounds sorry, I'm trying to hold this and do that at the same time, but it sounds pretty cool, and I've never heard of it. I've literally lived in Orange County since 1996, minus being here for like a year. But oh, you know what that means? It means I've been in Orange County for 30 years now. Wow, yeah, it's only one county up. It actually is bookended by LA and San Diego. So I didn't quite make it to LA, but I live 10 miles from the border, so close enough, right? But anyway, yeah, you know, so anyways, it's called the Garden Grove Historical Society. Now, I will say this, I want to point this out first. I was going to read this last, but it is a volunteer organization, and they make their money by doing membership dues, grants, and they have a barn and book sale. And if you're interested, put it in your calendars. April 23rd through the 25th from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. They will be doing their barn and book sale. And what it looks like, actually, the barn and book sale, it looks like you know, like a craft show. So not just books. It looks like they're selling other stuff too. So, you know, get down there, go support this, because this is a ranch museum that sits on 2 acres of property containing the Ware Stanley House, the Walt Disney Garage, which I'm going to explain in a second, the Garden Grove Post Office, and a replica of the Garden Grove Fire Station. And a lot more. So this is 2 acres of land where they have moved some of these places. And or they've moved some of these places just to kind of keep the history of Garden Grove alive. Now, I had no idea, okay, because I was like, when I saw this, when I was Googling stuff yesterday to talk about today, I was kind of like, whoa, mind blown. So the Walt Disney Garage, believe it or not, it is a garage that nobody wanted, not even Disney, because this is where Walt started. It was in his uncle's garage. He paid his uncle $5 a week to live in his house and an extra $1 to use this garage as his studio. But surprisingly, Disney didn't want it. You know, the Disney studios didn't want it. They said that it's not, you know, technically his first studio. So here's the thing. I think with Disney, it's just, you know, they wanted to go back to when, you know, it became Disney Studios, and that would actually start in LA. So, about a year or two later, when he basically outgrew his uncle's garage. So, the fascinating thing about this, though, is that this is where Walt started. This is where he did a lot of his, you know, first animations that kind of gave him a little bit of capital. He still had to borrow some capital from his uncle, but gave him enough to be able to put his work out there and move to something bigger, to what we now know as, you know, the Disney Studios. But even those weren't the first studios. The first studios, I remember Sissy Joe and I went looking for it one night. We ended up in a Trader Joe's parking lot, so it got bulldozed over. But now, if you ever visit Disneyland and you go down the 134 freeway, you will see the big sorcerer's hat, and you will know that those are the Walt Disney Studios. And it's a big lot. Been on there thanks to Bestie, but it was pretty awesome. So I think it's kind of cool that the garage in Garden Grove, where Walt started, remained in Garden Grove as part of their historical society. So thank you to the GGHS for keeping that little bit of history alive. So, and we will get to some Disneyland haunted stuff in a second. But, so I'm going to read this. So I got this from the Garden Grove Historical Society and baronnews.net or .com. Sorry. I forgot that part. I think it was .com. But anyways, so some of these stories came from there, and they're great. Okay, they're great. One person from the past still remains and is believed to be the spirit of Agnes Stanley. Good morning, Allie. Mrs. Stanley was an elderly woman who was unable to ascend the stairs due to her poor health. Frustrated by her inability, she is said to be felt as a force in the staircase to block people from going up and down the stairs. Visitors of the house also claim to hear a baby's cry from a nursery from the baby's nursery on the second floor. They also claim that two portraits in the house are haunted. The first portrait is of J.G. Candler, who smiles randomly, and the other is of an unknown man who bleeds from his throat. Oh, that's pretty wild. Can you imagine seeing that? Paranormal investigators agree that it may be haunted. Well, what do you think? I love that. Paranormal investigators, agree that it may be haunted. It's like it either is or it isn't. Okay, but if you have one visitor, it's a potential possibility. Potential possibility is the same thing, right? It's a possibility. But, if you have two, maybe. But when you have three, that's a phenomena, all right? When more than two people are saying, this is happening. Now, the portraits, I'm not sure. The random smiling one, it could be just the way you look at it, or maybe it is. Maybe his ghost is popping through going, hey, how's it going? As for the one that bleeds from its throat, this is something I would need to see for myself because, I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. But it just seems, hey, I'm a believer. I am not a skeptic. But also the little old lady, right? Mrs. Stanley. If people hear babies' cries on the second floor, maybe she's trying to protect the baby. Like, I don't know you. Why are you trying to go up there? I have a theory sometimes that it's almost like the others, right? But I had this theory long before the others. I developed this in high school when I was reading all this stuff. And it's like, what if we're just looking? What if there's like some kind of weird time thing, right? that's just, you know, we're looking into their era, they're looking into ours, and for all we know, they may think we look like ghosts going, I think our house is haunted because there's someone in weird dress, you know, like obviously up to date, you know, not antique. But, you know, so I sometimes wonder if that's a part one of the phenomena. Not always, but one of them. So who knows? You know, I mean, time and the whole space-time continuum that people talk about in movies and in books and all the, I mean, the universe is a very fascinating place. You just never know what you're going to get. Literally, like the show, you never know what you're going to get. So anyway, anyway, okay, so yeah, and the haunted portraits. Seriously, this reminded me of Disneyland, which is my next segue, because I promised you Disneyland. Now, here's the fun part. Yeah, like parallel worlds, right? Like, you know, I know superhero movies kind of visit the idea of a multiverse. And a lot of people wonder, not because of comics, but if it is an actual thing. Oh, thank you, Allie, for the comment, or the compliment. You're so sweet. My beautiful girls are on today, except one of my older siblings. She's not here. But okay, thank you. Never knowing what you're going to get makes it fun. Thank you, Sammy. Thank you, Muddy. I appreciate that. So, and I'm also sorry about your plans today, but yeah, but thank you for being here. I appreciate it. I do. So anyways, Disneyland, California. So, so first and foremost, I've had my own experience at Disneyland, but I'll tell you that last. The first one, so this is what I wrote. With the amount of visitors the park receives daily, it stands to reason energy will be left behind, but it feels like the majority of that would be residual. However, there have been reports of a ghost people refer to as Mr. One Way, who rides with single riders on Space Mountain. Never seen that one. Of course, they usually have someone with me, so, but still. As well as the ghost of Walt Disney, who has been spotted in his old apartment over the fire station, as well as the magic shop on Main Street. One popular story is a boy whose mother, despite being told no, released his ashes near the exit of Haunted Mansion. And a lot of people claim to see a crying boy in front of the Haunted Mansion. But seriously, this is Disneyland. They literally have on Main Street, next to the first stay station, a place where lost children can go. So it's hard to say, is it real? Is it not? Like I said, I am not a skeptic. I am a believer, but I do try to discern what is real and what isn't. I'm not just going to say, oh, look, it's a crying boy. And then, you know, all of a sudden you turn around and his mom shows up, right? So not a ghost. But here's the fun part. In the one night on the Haunted Mansion, and this actually made our local news up in LA, because we're part of the LA market. So, or the greater LA area. Like seriously, this county, thanks to Walt, made a name for itself, but it's still the greater LA area. So we get all their news. But anyways, it appeared on the local news, and a security guard had no idea what he caught, but he was like, hey, whoa, wait, why is there someone out here walking out of the Haunted Mansion? The park has been closed for several hours. It's just the workers. The workers for Disneyland, the maintenance workers, they work at night. So they work when nobody is in the park. And sometimes if you stay there long enough, in the last hour or so, you can actually see them coming into the park. You know, you can see them walking around, heading to wherever their station is that night that they're going to, you know, check everything out, make sure everything works. So, you know, there have been accidents at Disneyland, and, you know, it's sad and unfortunate, but with the amount of people that have been there, it's good to know that it is not, a common occurrence. Some accidents have happened out of rider stupidity, as much as I hate to say that. So, oh yeah, maybe that's somebody telling me about that story too. So anyways, the security guard was looking at the footage across the park, and he sees this person, but it's not quite a person, coming out of the Haunted Mansion, but, like around the exit area. So what's interesting about that is that a lot of people will say it's the camera glitching, it's this, it's that, it's something else. But the camera didn't seem to glitch, because he was able to note that other people in the park that were maintenance workers did not look like this. This person had a bit of a glow to them. But if you look really closely, it actually looks like Walt. It actually looks like Walt Disney. Now, one thing to remember is that the development for the Haunted Mansion started while Walt was still alive, but there was still a lot of, what do we do with this? What do we not do with this? And he died before it opened. So if he haunts the Pirates of the Caribbean and he haunts the Haunted Mansion, it might stand to reason that these are, you know, places that he would have loved to have seen, come to fruition. So maybe he's just checking on his place, maybe he's just looking in on what he created, and if that's the case, fine. I think it's great. I mean, if anyone deserves free admission, it's the guy who created it, right? So, but yeah, people have said that in his apartment on Main Street above the fire station, just so you know, when Walt was alive, they would put a light in the window to show that he was in the park. So it was kind of like a neat little treat for people to look up like, oh, is Walt there? But now they just keep it, eternally lit, because Walt will never die. Walt will always be there. So the fun thing about his garage, though, is that it really kind of started the first set of things that he did. And then it allowed him to move on. But what a lot of people don't realize about Oswald the Rabbit actually preceded Walt Disney. Now, big Disney fans would know this. Not everybody does. They might just think, hey, who's this rabbit? Who's this Oswald Rabbit? And a lot of people won't look it up. But what happened was he had drawn him for Universal. And, when he he had drawn him when he worked at Universal Studios. And there was a little bit of a fallout with them and Universal. And he's like, well, I'm taking my rabbit and I'm going. And they're like, no, you're not. That's our property. You drew it while you worked for us. We get to keep Oswald. But then they buried Oswald, for like years, for decades. For decades, they buried Oswald. But Mickey Mouse was born. In 1928, Mickey Mouse was born. So Mickey Mouse's older brother is actually Oswald. And and I love Oswald. He is just the cutest bunny. I mean, he's very similar to Mickey, but he's a rabbit. Okay. And he's, taller. He has ears. But anyways, so yeah, that's a little bit of your history. And then, sometime in this century, they started working out a deal with Universal, and they were able to bring Oswald home. So, about maybe 10 or so years ago. So welcome back, Oswald. But anyways, they also have a crying boy and Ash's story outside of Pirates. So sometimes I wonder if legend gets mixed up in reality. Now, I will say this. When one of my best friends moved back to, yes, please look up Oswald, Muddy. I might have the story a little bit wrong because it's been a while since I've told it, but he was Walt's first big creation, and for an actual company. So yeah, and oh my God, he is just, I cannot. He's so cute. I cannot. He's so cute. But if I had a second, well, I would say that Oswald and Tigger are my seconds after Goofy, because I love Goofy. That's my boo. Goofy is my boo. If Goofy were real, I'd marry him. Tall, lanky, cute. Who doesn't love that? But anyways, and I love it because I get so enthusiastic every time I see Goofy that, the cast member, Goofy, just gives me the best hugs, and it's just like, and I don't care how old I am, I will always squeak when I see Goofy. I'll be 80 years old going, oh my God, it's Goofy! But it's like, don't hug me too tight, you might crush me. I'm fragile. But for now, no. Anyways, so I have a story, and then, oh wait, what was I going to say? Oh yeah. So this is not a ghost story. This is just random. When one of my best friends moved back to Canada, he left his fish. He left his fish. It's not Bestie. Bestie lives not far from me down the other end of the 91 freeway. But one of my best friends, that I've known for, God, over 20 years now, he left his betta fish with us, and we named him. He was named one thing, but there was a bit of a hullabaloo that went on around this fish. I mean, not the fish itself, but in the group. So anyways, we renamed him Indiana Fish, because my friend's favorite ride was Indiana Jones. One of his favorite movies was Indiana Jones. Even had the fedora. So, he did, we're all a bunch of nerds. So anyways, this is one of my best friends I get to see at Comic-Con every year. So anyways, when Indiana Fish died, another one of my really good friends of mine, we rode the ride I packed this fish in a paper towel and dirt, soil, put him in a plastic bag, and irreverently put him in my bag, in my purse. And so we rode this ride, and we're like, Indiana Fish, this is your last hurrah. And then when nobody was looking at the exit of Indiana Jones, I mean, we couldn't really put him in the ground there, so we kind of had to drop him. So this was pre-planned, we dropped him into the, this is why I had a lot of dirt with him. And then he just kind of had his own little burial mound. But I shit you not, about 3 months later we went there, and a flower was growing in that exact space. But here's the thing. I don't know how many people know this, but Disneyland has a cat colony. They keep the mice in check. They keep the rats in check. All right. Basically, with the exception of Mickey and Minnie and maybe their nephews. Yeah. That's why there's no rodents running around this park, because Disney has a cat colony. And I'm pretty sure that one of the cats actually dug up the fish and probably ate him. So, like a little appetizer right before the big meal. But anyways, so yeah, that's one of my stories, but that's not the ghost story. It's probably been about 21 years now. I had, Bestie, his partner, myself, an older sibling, and a couple other friends were at Disneyland. And, we were waiting in the disabled area for, Pirates of the Caribbean. Now, Bestie and I, this is the bestie from high school. We poke a lot at each other and blah, blah, blah. But I think I was probably being a little over the top that day. And I don't know what kept happening. But from the moment we stepped into the exit of that ride, to get to the waiting area, because we had a wheelchair with us, because his partner was in a cast, all this random stuff kept happening to me. Like, I felt like somebody pushed me from behind. I felt that, like I was holding a bottle and the bottle kept getting knocked out of my hand, and there was nobody next to me to do this. I would feel that if it was a human, but it was just like, I mean, literally, you could almost feel this weird energy, just kind of like in this cold spot, just knocking shit out of my hand. I had the cap in one hand and it just fell out, like it literally flew out of my hand. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, this has got to be Walt. What? Because, I mean, Bestie, if you think I love Disneyland, this dude, he knows everything about Disneyland. And I was just like, I just looked at him. I said, I think Walt's mad at me for picking on you. And so I told my friend, I said, hey, can we get a picture? And so he took one picture and then he took another picture because he's like, okay, that was weird. And then he took a second picture right after it. So he's like, I'm taking 2 pictures. He's also, don't move, after the first one. And when we saw the first one, it was very fascinating because there's just this weird looking like energy thing. And it wasn't just a light anomaly. It had a little bit of shadow on it. And we all decided that, yes, we had a paranormal experience at Disneyland. And it was actually pretty funny because I felt bad, but it was like, I'm like, okay, I'll behave now. I'm really sorry. I could be feisty sometimes, I don't know. I probably shouldn't have been, but, sometimes you're just an asshole, and that was my day. But yeah, Walt put me back. I like to think that Walt put me back in my place. I cannot find the picture. I know it's on my computer at home, and it was on Lola, but Lola, as you know, just faded on me and is literally keeping everything a secret on her little hard drive. So one day I hope to find it and be able to share it. I thought I had it in my phone, but I do not. So if I do come across it, I will share it, because even an older sibling was there. She was a total witness to this. So it was just kind of like, wow. And I tell you, I apologized to him and I said, I'm really, really sorry. And then the rest of the day, nothing. Even the rest of that time waiting there, nothing. I just kind of felt this little cold air, almost like being scolded, just going, stop it. Stop being a jerk. So anyways, we're going to move south now. We're going to move south and then we're going to come up a little bit to the coast, but Mission San Juan Capistrano. So I don't really think I need to tell you where this is because it's in San Juan Capistrano. But in Orange County, you have San Diego, San Clemente, and then you have like San Juan Capistrano, and then Dana Point is along the coast. So, but yeah, I've heard a lot of stories about this. So, there was, when the original church was built, so just as a little bit of a history, Father Junipero Serra, built the very first mission here in San Diego. And, I believe San Juan was the third mission because there's another one in northern San Diego, and then I believe the next one. But he built 21 missions up the coast when the Spanish first arrived in California. So, and you know, a lot of people have a lot of feelings about that because they did use, you know, Native American labor, and so yeah, you know how that goes. But all in the name of church. So. But the mission, if you've ever been there, it is, I mean, the San Diego mission is great. I've never been to the, believe it or not, I've never been to the one in northern San Diego, but I have been to San Juan, and the church is absolutely beautiful. The one in San Diego is beautiful, but it's a little bit smaller, but this one was big. It was a little bit more grand. And, but the first one was taken out by an earthquake, and it was said that a young woman named Magdalena died in that earthquake. Now, there is a graveyard out back where you can see some of the graves of these people who passed away in that earthquake. So, anyways, they believe she haunts the church. And, you know, I don't think it's malevolent in any way. I think maybe, you know, my other theory is that sometimes when people die, like just like that, I don't think they always realize they're dead. You know, and there's a lot of shows that are based on like Ghost Whisperer, right? Like either they want to finish up something or they don't realize they're dead. And I think that's why a lot of times when people see ghosts and they see ghosts approaching them, it's kind of like, oh my God, what do I do? They're probably thinking, oh my God, somebody sees me. And so, you know, you just have to tell them you need to move on because you are no longer with us. And, you know, that might be a little hard to take, right? It's like, hey, you're dead, go. If you come into this situation, be kind, be kind. Sometimes it might just be residual, or maybe they're just bored, you know, and they're like, hey, I thought I'd visit Earth for a while. Let me come say hi. Let's go have coffee. Let's chat. Imagine how well that would go over. So anyways, there's also, stories that go around that the mission church bells ring on their own. So here's the thing. Is it the actual church bells or is it phantom church bells? And by phantom church bells, I mean, I do believe, so like I said, everything is made up of energy. We're made up of energy and water. So, you know, it stands to reason that sometimes energy will imprint on a certain period. And, you know, there was a time when this was a very, very, you know, prominently used church. It was the only church in the area. It was the only Catholic church in the area. Now there are more, but the church is still open for services. Okay. But there was a time when it was like the only one very prominently used for decades. So it stands to reason that if you hear bells on a very quiet night, it could possibly just be phantom bells, which is still ghostly, right? Because you're hearing sounds of the past. So there's also a story of a couple of headless guards who you know, who guard the original church. I don't mean to laugh, but it's like, if you're a headless guard, how the hell do you guard anything? You know, kind of like, but that's also kind of freaky. You got to wonder why they have no heads. So, yeah, and a faceless monk. So I also, I have lots of theories, guys. It could be that the headless guards, you know, maybe when they're wearing when they were wearing their helmets, you know, it could have shielded their face. And so, you know, I don't know how much metal, well, I'm sure metal carries energy, but it could just be that, you know, the faceless monk was because, you know, people really didn't see their faces in, you know, when they had their hoods up. So there's a lot of different things, I think, you know, that could be responsible for that. Like I said, if it's one person, it's a story. If it's two people, it's a possibility. If it's three people, it's phenomena. Because three people seeing something, especially all together, is kind of like, ooh, okay. So, yeah. So we're going to move back now to the coast. I saved this one for last. I should have saved Disneyland for last, because to me, that's the best one. But I am a John Wayne fan. Guy could be a douchebag sometimes, I know, but I still love his movies. Or should I say not a douchebag? He was very opinionated. So, not always in the right direction either, but that's okay, because, he's the Duke. He can do, back then nobody cared, right? Nobody ran up against this, but I do love John Wayne. I am a big fan of John Wayne, and, I always will be. Grew up on his movies, love Westerns. I told older sibling, I said, just before I die, the one thing I would love to do is be in a Western movie. That's it. Just ride a horse, shoot a gun, okay, look, it's the old days. All right. I know there's a lot of, this back and forth about guns and stuff, and that's okay. I'm not trying to take away anyone's guns. I just want better gun laws. All right. So there's my soapbox for the moment. I just want better gun laws. I want stricter gun laws. There's a reason I don't own a gun, because I have mental health issues. Not that I would hurt anyone else, but I can't do it because I'm afraid I might hurt myself. So, but yeah, I would love writing down just 6-shooter. I know. So I have dreams. I have fantasies. Oh, Sammy, Westerns rock. Tombstone is one of my favorite films. I enjoyed Tombstone. And here's the thing. So we're going to go let's go sideways a little bit. All right. We're going to go next door to Arizona. What the hell? A little bit of something, a whole lot of everything. Right. So years ago, about 20 years ago, when baby's sibling graduated from college or from high school, damn, it's been 20 years. I'm going to text that to her today. Hey, by the way, did you know that it's been 20 years since you graduated from high school? Yeah, she's 15 years younger than me. So, every so often when I can throw something at her, I will. Because, that's what older siblings do. So, she is my baby cousin, but she's like my little sister. But anyways, we went to Tombstone. And I was so excited because I'd seen the movie. I've heard of Tombstone, heard of Wyatt Earp. Wyatt Earp actually spent some time in San Diego. Excuse me. And so Mom and I decided we're going to go into the Birdcage Theater. Now we walk in, my auntie is with us, and she's like, wait, it's haunted? And before we even could pay to get in, she was out. She's like, nope, I'm out. But my mom, I thought, oh crap, that means my mom's probably going to go now. Because I didn't tell either one of them. I didn't want to tell either one of them because I did not want to go in there by myself. But so I told my mom, I said, are you going to leave too? She's like, no, I'm curious. So, there was a lot of facets to my mother that still, when I think about them, just surprise me. But she's like, no. So my aunt left, and I felt bad because I probably should have said something. But the girls at the front, they're dressed like saloon girls, and the guys dressed like the bartender of the day or the piano guy. And she was like, yeah, there's this one ghost, which I apologize to you because I can't remember your name. But she's like, oh yeah, he's feisty. He loves the girls. She's all, he loves the girls. And she's all, you don't have to believe us, but she's all, go see it for yourself. And I'm like, no. I said, I'm a believer. And my mom's all, I don't know. So anyways, we walk in, and because it's a lot of old stuff in there, they keep it very dim inside, and to also keep it cool inside. So we walk through the saloon doors, which of course it's like my mom and I, you go first. No, you go first. And my mom pushed me through the doors. She's like, you go first. You wanted to come here, you go first. So I did, but it was very fascinating. And my mom and I kind of split, we're just looking around, we're watching everything. And she's like, yeah, sometimes you can see someone walking up there. Didn't see anybody. But the interesting thing was when we were getting ready to go up onto the stage, we were standing and my mom was taking a picture of the little, off to the side of the stage. You know how they always have those little private boxes? My mom was taking a picture of the private box, and we heard a tink on the piano. And so we both just kind of froze. because my mom actually sat there before she took the picture, and she's all, we've been through this whole thing. Are you sure it's haunted? And I'm like, well, maybe they're just not feeling it today. Maybe they don't feel like coming out today. And after she said that, just a few minutes later, we heard that little clink, clink on the piano. And we both just stopped, and my mom looked at me, and she kind of just grabs my arm, like, what was that? She said, do you do that? And I'm over here at the piano's over there. How am I going to do that? And then all of a sudden, this gust of cold air just envelops us. It just kind of whoosh right by, but kind of swirls around us, and then it's gone. And so my mom's she's doing this. I'm like, what are you doing? And she's like, I'm looking for a vent. So I'm looking for a vent too, just to make sure that it wasn't just some AC, no vents around us. And my mom's did we just have an experience? And she was so excited, like the lady that pushed me through the doors to go in first because she was afraid she was going to be greeted by this dude on the other side. She's like, did we just have an experience? And she was so excited about it. It was so funny. It was so cute. And and then we finished the rest of the thing out, and they're all, hey, did anything happen? I'm like, oh yeah, we heard the piano and we felt a gust of air. And they're all, oh yeah, sometimes you'll feel it right by the stairs because they they're going up and down, because that was the entrance point too for the showgirls and everybody. So it was kind of cool. It was pretty neat, and it was fun to have that experience with my mom. So so that's my tombstone story. But yeah, I love Westerns. I just love Westerns. I love the newer Westerns. I love the older Westerns. I mean, not just John Wayne movies, but other movies. The spaghetti Westerns were okay, but they were long. Some movies do not need to be that long, okay? But I guess they had a lot to say. But of course, you gotta love Clint Eastwood too. Clint Eastwood's pretty badass. Another one of my favorites. But that's a recent favorite. My dad has been kind of making me watch it. Like when I first got here, we watched almost every Clint Eastwood movie. So, we made it through almost all the James Bonds, all the Sean Connery James Bonds, which I'd never seen a Sean Connery James Bond until this last year. I know. Roger Moore was my dude. I mean, he's the one I grew up with. So, he was the man. But anyways, ghost stories. So, we are going to talk about the Wild Goose. The Wild Goose is John Wayne's personal yacht. He lived in Orange County for a while. I think in his later years, he lived in Orange County. He had a house in Newport Beach on the bay, and he also had a yacht that he absolutely loved. It was his pride and joy. But when he got sick, obviously it was probably harder for him to get onto the boat and whatnot, because, probably didn't help his situation much either. So he sold it. And he sold it to a lawyer named Lynn Hutchins, who owned the boat until 1991. So, regardless of who owns the boat, there is always an experience happening on this boat. She would feel and see the presence of John Wayne just walking about on the boat, or she would feel him when she was just relaxing. And she wasn't always on the boat. It was just something that she would come visit several times a year because, obviously her career keeps her busy. And this was something that she could do to just kind of unwind and relax. So, you get to unwind and relax with the Duke. But also, people have reported empty rooms being locked from the inside, hearing random footsteps where there should be nobody, and them checking to see and there's nobody up there. Now, mind you, you can't just sneak off a boat, okay? You were either going to be caught on the docks running away, or you're going to hear a splash in the ocean, no matter how quietly you try to get into water, all right? And still, you have to surface at some point. So it stands to reason that he's just, he loved this yacht. And because he loved this yacht, I think he just decided, hey, you know what? I'm going to spend part of my afterlife on this place. And it could also be residual, right? I mean, John Wayne had a very strong presence to him. He had a very strong presence. So, it's not completely unheard of that this is something that he would frequent. One of his favorite places to just unwind and relax, probably drink or smoke a cigar. I don't know if he smoked, but I don't know if he smoked a cigar. I'm pretty sure he was a smoker. But yeah, definitely a drinker. But yeah, just somewhere he could unwind and just be John Wayne, just be Marion Morrison, right? So I'm going to leave you off with this story. This story is, it's so outrageous that I tend to believe it, because this one probably had a lot of witnesses. I don't know when this happened, but there is a story that the yacht broke away from its moorings, ended up in front of the house that John Wayne once lived in, was documented to be in front of this house that he once lived in, and then somehow made it back to port. None of the lines were cut. No break-in was, there was no signs of forced entry, no signs of entry, period. But somehow this boat sailed right to the front of his old house and then went right back to where it belonged. Now, if you've ever been to Newport Beach, or you've seen pictures or whatnot, or maybe even seen a crime show or two, because that has been featured in there, you will notice that a lot of homes in Newport Beach have moorings in front of them. So people can park their boats or their little duffies, which are little tiny boats with, just little boats that you can just kind of tool around the bay in. Or they would park both. So there was room for a yacht in front of his old house. I've seen his old house from the bay. Sissy Joe took me on a tour. So, on a Duffy. But yeah, so I have seen his house, and there was a mooring in front. So it almost feels like, he was just like, yeah, I'm going to go back and visit my own house on my boat, and then I'm going back. So I don't know if he was the actual captain of his boat, or if he ever actually drove it himself, but somebody brought him home one day. And, yeah, so who knows? Skeptic, not a skeptic. These are still great stories, whether you believe them or not. I'm still having a little trouble with the guy who bleeds from his throat at the Stanley Museum. Now, now I'm going to go visit this place, and they're going to be like, oh yeah, watch. And it's just going to be like, I'll be scarred for life. But probably not. I'll just be like, okay guys, been there and it's true. I can confirm that this is true, and, end up in I don't know. You never know. You never know. But anyways, like I said, if you guys have any really good stories, I mean, come on, Sammy, you live in the South. You've got to have some, maybe not personal ones, but there's got to be some good stories coming out of Georgia. Oh, I have one more Orange County story. I do have an LA one, but we'll do LA on another day. So older sibling will be like, oh, why didn't you tell that story? And he's like, because that happened in LA. But this happened in Orange County, and this is actually something that happened to older sibling and I. So a bazillion years ago, she bought her condo, and she received the news that everything was approved and that she needed to sign papers when we were at a hockey game. We just got there, we had season seats, and we were talking to our ticket rep. And she gets this call, and, they're all, she comes back, and, she's all giddy. She's like, oh my God, I just got the house. I can sign my papers now, blah, blah, blah. And so, on the way home to Costa Mesa at the time, that's where we lived, I was driving, and we were in my truck, and it's just a 2-cab truck, and there was no window in the back. It was a Ford Ranger, so the only windows that opened were the 2 side windows, and we had them all closed. And it was a pretty chilly night, so the vents were off. But I say all this because we were in the carpool lane, and in the certain section of the 5 freeway, there is, it's just concrete, because it's, you're coming into, it's just concrete on both sides, and then the bridge that comes over, because, it's a transition area. And we're sitting there, and older sibling just starts talking about Mom Barbara, and she's like, oh, Mom would have been so excited. She would have been so proud. And I said, I'm sure she, so I go off on this whole tangent about how I'm sure she would, she's here for you and blah, blah, blah. And older sibling is like, yada, yada, yada. She's like, and I just keep hearing her. And she reminded me of this yesterday. She's like, she's like, Shelly. And I'm like, and I'm just talking because I'm trying to make her feel better. And, I that's all I remember. I don't remember what I said. And then she's all, Shelly. And I'm like, what? And she's all, do you smell that? I'm like, yeah, it smells like flowers. And then I keep talking. And then all of a sudden, just deadpan. Like, oh. Her family tends, and now a lot of people will smell flowers when family comes to visit. Her family, that is their tell, is either the typical hummingbird, which everybody sees when you're thinking about your loved ones, or the smell of flowers. And her mom loved sterling roses, and the smell of roses came in the car. And I'm like, yeah, it smells like flowers. And then it was kind of like, you know, then it kind of had that, oh, it smells like flowers. I'm like, oh, it's your mom. And so then to try to debunk it, I'm looking around and there is no way there's a flower smell coming from the side of the freeway. First of all, we're not on the side of the freeway. We're in the carpool lane. And we're in the part of the carpool lane where it's just nothing but concrete. No flowers, no nothing. And I just looked at her and I said, your mom is so happy that you got this place. She's just letting you know. And of course, then, you know, older sibling, she's tearing up because it's just that was her moment with her mom. So yeah, I'm going to leave you with that one because that was a pretty story. That was a lovely story. I love that story. You know, just to know that, you know, our loved ones can come through and just, you know, show us that, hey, you know what, I may be gone, but I'm still around, you know. And, you know, if you have ghost stories, you have ghost stories. I don't think there's any reason to be ashamed of them. There's always going to be skeptics out there. There are a lot of skeptics who have turned into believers because they've had their own experiences. This is a gift I've had since I was a kid, and I shut it off for a while because it absolutely scared the shit out of me when I was a kid. I grew up on horror movies, okay? I had no idea that the afterlife and ghost stuff was, it could be a little bit different and a little less volatile. There are crazy ghosts out there, and knock wood, because I don't want to deal with any. But, you know, if you believe, you believe. If you don't, you don't, and you don't have to. These can just be fun stories for you to share with other people. But that being said, I thank all of you for coming on today. I hope everybody has a wonderful, wonderful day. Muddy, older sibling, Allie, thank you all for popping on. Yeah, I would love to tell more stories. You know, I just love this part. You know, I try to toss it up a little bit and do different things so that we're not always standing on our soapbox preaching. Which is a favorite thing of mine to do, but even I need a break. When I'm getting a mental cold, even I need a break. So, yeah, I don't know what else to call it. You know, yeah. So it is what it is. It's okay. I'm fine. But yeah, so have a great day, everybody. Have a wonderful and safe weekend, and I'll see everybody back here Monday at 8:30 a.m. Pacific. Facebook Live, All Lives are Public, under Shelly Marie, one word, Luke, one word. I'm saying that because this is a ghosty show. Don't make my mom come and haunt you. Little M. Shelly Marie, one word, little M. Lucas. And yeah, I put it on YouTube, and then it spreads out. It spreads out from there. Oh, Lord have mercy. Oh, yeah. Allie lives in England. What you guys got over there? What you got? Tell me some stories, people. I would love to share them on this show. I love hearing people's experiences and stories and all those things. So, because they're just fascinating to me, because it's also, as a history person, a person who loves history, I love looking into the past, and sometimes the past likes to look back. So there you go. Love y'all too, Sammy. All right. Have a great day, everybody. And thank you so much for watching.